Welcome back to the Sully Scoop, where three lifelong Husker bros dive in depth on all surrounding the new era of Husker football, where our cups never run dry of the Rule-Aid under head coach Matt Rule. Made by fans for fans with J-Saul, B-Saul, and T-Saul. Back here on your favorite Cornhusker podcast, the Sully Scoop. You're here with J-Saul, B-Saul, and T-Saul this week, and we got to dive in on who we think has the best chances to make the college football playoff for the 2024 season. That includes 12 teams for this year.
Now, J-Saul, before we get into breaking down and given a couple teams that we think have the best opportunity, there's two things here. I want everybody I want everybody on the Scoop, listening to the Scoop here to know these are not our final projections on who's making the college football playoffs. This is just teams
not
that
confident
we think have,
in his picks already.
No,
not
these are
confident at all right here.
These are teams that we think have a good opportunity to make it there. You'll have to tune in to a later episode of the Sully Scoop and follow on Twitter when the rankings and the official picks for each of the panel members gets released. And we will have them also from our guest picks as well. But before we even get into that as well, I also want to talk about here, we did have a little shakeup on the Nebraska football staff this past week with Evan Cooper, our DB coach, stepping down for personal reasons. And then really in basically a blink of an eye, we had a new DB coach in John Butler stepping in to replace him there. I got to ask you guys, how big a change do you think this is going to be for the team?
Well, I don't think it's going to be that big of a change. I mean, like you said, blink of an eye, we replaced one coach with the next. That tells me that it was premeditated and we're moving on. And I mean, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact at all. I mean,
he was our top recruiter. How are you going to come out here and say it was premeditated? This guy was making $700K a year to not be a head coach, and he was our top recruiter. He was bringing in all these top guys. He was a part of getting Dylan Raiola to Nebraska.
Not only that, Jay, so I think it's important for everybody to know here. Evan Cooper played at Temple when Matt Rule was an assistant coach. Went back and coached under Matt Rule at Temple. Coached under Matt Rule at Baylor. Coached with him on the Panthers, and then came here. This is a guy who bought into what Rule does. So I think it does take a toll, not only just on the recruiting side because he is such a talented recruiter, but you lose a guy who really is able to echo the culture that Rule wants to bring and build with the program.
Well, I'm just going to tell you guys, I don't think that a DB coach is going to be make or break on our season this year. I mean, if we're making or breaking because of DBs, then we have other serious issues on our team. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Like, is it going to hurt a little bit? Sure, but they replaced him with a guy who deserves to be there as well. And you know, just on to the next. You keep moving. We still got Tony White. We still got Matt Rule. So I don't see that big of a change on our team personally.
Now, you bring up a good point here, T-Cell. We do still have Tony White, and I think it's important for everybody to know Tony White got a lot of looks as a potential head coach last year, and everybody thought he was going to take the San Diego State job. I think this John Butler move actually is a potential plan ahead for when Tony White gets a head coaching job next year. John Butler's been a defensive coordinator at a handful of stops. He was, I believe, let me just confirm here for you. When he was at Penn State, he was their defensive coordinator back in 2013, has been a secondary coach, a pass game coordinator in the NFL. I mean, the guy knows what to do on the defensive side of the ball, that I wonder if him stepping in so quick has the potential for him to grow into our defensive coordinator when Tony White takes a head coaching job next year.
Now, B-Saul, I got to tell you this right now. You boys better buckle in and get used to it, because if Nebraska's going to be the team that we expect them to be this year, next year, and in the future, we're going to be replacing DB coaches, defensive coordinators, offensive line coach every year. Those guys are going to be getting a ton of jobs elsewhere. I mean, Saban literally had to replace his offense and defensive coordinator every single year. So if things are rolling on all cylinders, you're doing this yearly. And there's no time or when it happens. You're doing it consistently, and you're still hitting on the guys coming in.
Absolutely can't disagree with that. Look at all the Saban guys that are still in the league coaching this today. I mean, you got Texas's coach, you got Kirby Smart out in Georgia. I mean, these are the guys that are running the league, and it really shows that a premier head coach will get surpassed by the guys he mentors.
I like that J-Cell comes out here and lists 2 coaches out of the Nick Saban coaching tree when there's 8 of them in the league, and I believe his team.
Name them. Name them. Name all
He
8.
also
There's 8 of them.
forgot.
Don't look
He
it
also
up.
forgot
Don't Google it. Don't
Saban's
Google it.
Saban's
Don't
half
Google it.
removed brother-in-law. He forgot that
Google
guy
it.
too.
Look,
So
he's
let
already-
him know.
He's Googling it. He didn't know him off the top of his head. He's Googling it.
Yeah, well, you don't need to know them all off the top of your head, but you got Lane Kiffin, Jimbo Fisher.
You already
got,
pulled it up. You already
got
pulled it up and
Daniel
looked at
Lanning.
it.
No, I haven't even scrolled down to it. I'm telling you, those are 3 that
He
I
hasn't
know off
even
the top of my head.
scrolled down.
He already Googled
Jay,
it.
so you're
Jimbo
forgetting
Fisher.
about his
Jimbo
dentist
Fisher.
his dentist brother's cousin
So
who left the country and came back for 5 years. That guy's in the league too.
T-Cell, let's just scroll down here since J-Cell knows that I pulled it
Wow,
up here.
Jimbo Fisher,
So-
such a good name to put out there that he's not even coaching anymore.
Okay, so you got Jimbo Fisher, you got Kirby
He's
Smart.
not even coaching anymore. This list is false. All right, this is an old list you're looking at. You
Will
already
Muschamp.
Googled it. I didn't Google it. I'm looking up other stuff.
Will
You're
Muschamp.
Googling this.
Jeremy Pruitt, Mark D'Antonio, Lane Kiffin, Derek Dooley, Jim Macklin, Bobby Williams, Steve Sarkisian, Mel Tucker, Butch
Steve
Jones,
Sarkisian, that's the guy.
Mel
Billy
Tucker.
Napier.
That's
Mario
not a guy
Cristobal.
on your
Sorry,
list.
I stuck at the top of the list of college football today. I mean, you got Texas,
Mario
you got
Cristobal,
Georgia. None of the other people
Mike
are even
Locksley.
relevant. Maybe Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Maybe. That's a big maybe.
What do you mean maybe?
He's out here naming random people. You just Googled Nick Saban and just listed off whoever came up underneath his name.
No, Mike Locksley's the Maryland head coach. You've got Mario Cristobal, I believe, still
does
coaching
it
at
say
Miami.
that right next to his name on Google? You're looking
Billy
at the list
Napier's
right now.
coaching at Florida, I believe, still. You got Butch Jones, who used to be at Tennessee, and Jeremy Pruitt's there currently now. You do have Jimbo Fisher, who got
coaching
fired.
at Florida still. Maybe coaching at Florida. Is that because it says he was at Florida last and you have no idea? You've never even heard of this guy's name.
Lane Kiffin's still at Ole Miss. Will
No
Muschamp is still, I believe, defensive coordinator at Georgia under Kirby Smart right now. That the Nick Saban coaching tree is ginormous, J-Cell. That's the point I'm trying to make. Not 2 guys who are coaching.
Sorry, there's only 2 guys that have been at the top of the league in college football for the past 2 years that have surpassed Nick Saban.
Whoa.
You're not counting Mike Locksley in that, Jason? What is wrong with you?
Let's just
So where's Mike Locksley from? Go ahead, Google it like he did. Google it like he did.
T-Cell,
Not Googling anything.
We're talking about the fact that he just said Kirby Smart and Steve Sarkisian have passed Nick Saban on coaching resumes.
Yeah, that's crazy. That
Last year they passed him. Last year they both beat him.
Okay, congratulations.
False. Alabama was in the playoff there. Smart guy. Georgia was not in the playoff.
All right, what about the year before?
You could do this all day long if you want.
Let's let our Google fingers down there friggin' Google this stuff.
So I agree with you, T. So we're just gonna ignore Google fingers over there.
You are Google fingers.
I think Nebraska needs to start prepping that under Matt Rule, they're going to have coaches pulled and poached to go coach elsewhere. John Butler, I think, comes in with that kind of preventative step so that you have a plan to replace Tony White next year when he inevitably gets a head coaching job. And
so are you out here? Are you out here claiming that Matt Rule is the next Nick Saban? You're saying that Matt Rule's coaching tree is going to be like Nick Saban's, and we have to prepare for the Nick Saban train.
I did not say he was going to be the next Nick Saban. I'm saying
that is what you're saying. Preparing for it. You're preparing for it.
I'm preparing that Tony White, who should have gotten a head coaching job after last year, will get a head coaching job this year. And they are prepping to replace him with John Butler, who knows how to coach defense in the Big Ten. Did it at Penn State, did it at Minnesota already.
And don't let J-Sol jump on you for this. I mean, even B-Sol, even if you came out here and said Matt Rule's going to be the next Saban, that's not as bad of a hot take as what J-Sol had last week when you were off. J-Sol came on
That
here.
is crazy.
J-Sol came on air and said Dabo Swinney will get fired if he doesn't finish top 6 in the country.
That is not what I said. Top 6 in the
So
ACC.
if he finishes 7th and makes the college football playoff, his ass is grass, according to J-Sol.
Top 6. He is not going to be top 6 in the ACC, and he's going to be fired. They were already called for a seat last year. And listen, he's not going to be top 6 in that. And Clemson has come to the realization that they expect greatness. They are not happy for it. So guess what?
So how is being 7th in the country and making the college football playoff not greatness? I mean, what else do you want?
Well, T-Cell,
is that one spot really worth it?
T-Cell,
because
the
top 6
first,
in the ACC
last.
aren't going to be the top 6 in the year in the league. The top 6 in the ACC are not the number 1 through number 6. The top 6, if you're the 6th in the ACC, guess what? You're probably like 70.
What if it was there, J-Sol? What if it was? What if it played out that way to where you finish 7th in the ACC and they rank you 7th in the country? You're still firing him then?
Yes, that's flat out impossible. If you finish 7th in the ACC, he is done. He is gone.
Well, first
you're going to disagree with me? You're going to disagree with me?
Jason, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way Clemson's finishing under the top 6 in the ACC.
Okay. That's what you think. I said if they finish underneath that, which
no,
you don't think
you
is even
said
possible.
When
Dabo
they finish 7th. You said
Dabo
when they finish 7th.
This guy just makes up stuff out of his ass.
Play the tape.
I don't know where he comes.
That's fine and dandy. But let's flip the script here. You guys, we talked a little bit about Evan Cooper leaving, John Butler being a potential replacement for Tony White. I got to know, as we came on here, the speculation, the main juice here, we want to talk about college football playoff potential. Who are some of the teams that you think have the potential that will probably find their way into your rankings? And J-Sol, any dark horses that you're willing to let us onto, or are you keeping those secret until your rankings come out?
Oh,
J-Sol's dark horse.
Guess what? I am not like you, B-Sol. I'm not out here saying that I don't believe in my picks, and these aren't my real picks. Guess what? I've had my picks since the end of last season. And guess what? Alabama ain't in them, and neither is Clemson. It's a new era of college football. This is 2024. And guess what? 12 teams in it. Ain't one going to be Alabama, and ain't one of them going to be Clemson. I got 4 from the SEC, 4 from the Big Ten. And I got, Tisa, you're going to like this, two teams from the SEC, and Clemson ain't it.
Now, Jason,
well, B-Sol, he didn't finish
what
he was saying. He forgot to tell you he does have a true dark horse this season, and they're the Georgia Bulldogs.
Now, Jason, my question for you is, are you confident that you have them ranked 1 through 12 at this point? Are you ready to release your picks to the team, to the listeners, or are you willing to just talk about it?
I don't got to rank them today, but it's going to be the same 12 teams. I can tell you that much. And second of all, so why do you want me to put my teams out there and rank them? Are you just going to use my paper as a cheat sheet out here?
I think that's going to be the 12 teams to stay away from.
That's what I was thinking.
Jason, didn't you go 0 for 4 last year in the playoffs? I think you went 0 for 4.
1 for 4, just like you, buddy. So pipe down. And we got 12 chances this year.
And I should have been 3 for 4 if Florida State didn't get screwed.
I agree. And if Florida State didn't get screwed, I would have had 3 out of 4. So,
no, you did. No, your only team you got right was the team that went in instead of Florida State in Alabama. That was the only team you got right.
That's a lie. I had Michigan in there too, buddy.
Is that true?
I had Michigan in there too.
You had Ohio State, pal.
I had Michigan. Now, I will tell you one thing. This year, in the 12-team playoff, we used to call it a Power 5. 5 conferences will be having a team in the college football playoff.
Jason, I'm calling BS on that. There will not
hold
be
on,
5
hold
conferences.
on. Tiso, let's pump the brakes here for a second, because I got real confused when both of you started throwing some things out here. And so I got to know, You said you would have had how many right if Florida State got in?
He said 3.
No, J-Cell didn't have Florida State picked. I'm talking to you, T-Cell. You made a comment a second ago that said if Florida State had gotten in, you would have had 3 in, correct?
3 in.
Okay. So would you like to list off the 3 teams that you think you had right, including Florida State as one of them?
Florida State.
Yep.
Michigan.
I gave you that. Yep.
And the Pac-12 champ.
You mean your undefeated USC team?
I said Pac-12 champ. You can go back and listen. I said I think it's USC, but it's Pac-12 champ.
I have right here a hot take from last year that you predicted USC would be the only undefeated team in college football last year.
I said I think it's USC, but the Pac-12 will have an undefeated champ.
Whatever.
And they were undefeated.
Yeah.
Keyword was only in that statement.
Now, J-Cell, how many
Michigan
teams did you think
if
you
Michigan
had right?
didn't cheat, they wouldn't have been undefeated.
I had a
J-Cell.
single team right there.
Yes. You had Alabama correct. T-Cell had
Darn
Michigan
right.
correct. You both had 1 correct.
Okay.
But J-Cell preached
piping
all
down over there
offseason how
pretty quick.
Alabama didn't deserve it. Did he or did he not say that?
He did. Even though he had them
Okay.
ranked as his number 1 team.
This was the preseason. At the end of the season doesn't mean they were the same as the before the season. Let me tell you something. This year, I can guarantee you Alabama will not be in the playoff. I've already said it once, and I'll double down on it. Alabama will not be in the playoff.
That's crazy there, J-Saw. How can you sit here and say that Alabama isn't good enough to make the playoffs?
I will also double down on my take right now. Alabama will not be in the top 20 at the end of the season.
That's an erroneous take. You do realize Kalen DeBoer just
Write
took
it down. Write it down.
I had missed the CFP, but now I'm going to add in outside the top 25 too.
J-Saw,
I said
I'm
outside
not
the top
saying
20.
Alabama's winning the SEC.
They are going to get a pity vote to be in the top 25, not the top 20, in the top 25 because it's Alabama. It's like Colorado being in the top 25, top 20 in the new CFP, ESPN, EA Sports. It's a good game.
Telling you right now, J-Cell, Alabama is a better team than you're giving them credit for. They're returning a lot of starters. They didn't lose a ton of guys, and Kalen DeBoer brought a bunch of players from Washington as well over.
Wow.
And have you looked at their schedule?
Take the Washington guys over Alabama guys any day of the week.
Have you looked at Alabama's schedule?
Yes.
Have you?
They play the best conference in college football.
They play Western Kentucky. That's a dub. South Florida, dub. Wisconsin, dub. Georgia. I'll give you. They got Georgia at home, by the way, but I'll give you an L on that one there, J-Saw. Then they got Vanderbilt, dub. South Carolina, dub. Tennessee, dub. Missouri, dub. LSU. There, maybe that's your second toss-up. Then Mercer, dub. Oklahoma, dub. Auburn, toss-up. Worst case scenario, they're 9-3.
Now you just skipped over.
Mercer?
Did you just skip over a Missouri team that was in a New Year's Six Bowl last year and took down Ohio State, who you have picked as the best team in the Big Ten?
I don't have Ohio State picked in the Big Ten.
Bring up the stats, J-Saw.
I have Penn State there, buddy.
He has Penn State as the best team. He has Penn State beating Iowa in the Big Ten
Ryan Day is a waste of space. And you got to get that through your little scrawny brain over there, buddy.
Wait. Jason, can I just ask the
Nobody
question
could
that
have predicted that?
Here's a question all of the listeners want to know, T-Saw. How many Big Ten teams do you have making the college football playoffs this year?
I'm slotting 4 in.
You're predicting that there's going to be 4. Does that mean both teams that are in your Big Ten championship game are in?
No, he already came out. Actually, last week he came out and said that not both teams in the Big Ten championship game would be in the college football playoff.
There you go. That's my answer. I'm not putting them both in.
Listen,
there you go. I'm not putting them both in.
Both teams in the SEC championship and both teams in the Big Ten championship will both be in the college football playoff.
I never said that.
I did.
I think it's going to depend on how some of the other records line up there.
That's an erroneous take.
if the Big Ten beats up on each other and your team's in the Big Ten championship game, let's say one of them has 2 losses and they lose and have 3 losses at the end of the season, you're going to put a 3-loss team in the top 12?
And they lose 50-0? If they lose 50-0, you're still putting them in?
You're playing in the Big Ten championship game. Why am I gonna hurt you for playing an extra game? That's what happened to Georgia last year. We're talking a 1-loss Georgia team got taken
That's your answer.
out of the playoff.
That's your answer.
No,
that would be my answer if there was 4 teams. Guess what? We got 12. Georgia still would have been in the playoff.
Absolutely. Georgia would have been in, and that Georgia team would have won the championship last year.
So you would put Iowa in the playoffs last year? You would have put Iowa in there?
No.
They lost the Big Ten championship.
I don't care.
Iowa would have been in the playoff.
According to J-Sol, they were guaranteed in the playoffs.
Where they were ranked at the. Yes,
I would have taken
been
the 3-win Colorado team over Iowa.
First of all, they had 4 wins. Says how much you know.
4 wins.
Well, B-Sol, I'm not jumping on board with you on that one. I'm sorry, but Iowa would kick the crap out of Colorado.
By kick the crap, he means beat them 3-0.
He's talking it's going to be a punt game. Let's be real, T-Sol. Any team, if Iowa had made the playoffs there, it would have been as bad as the Georgia whooping on Florida State without any of their star players.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Iowa had the best defense in college football last year. There was a reason they won, 11-1, and that is because of their defense, not their offense.
J-Sol, please blink 3 times when Kirk Ferentz leaves the room. That way I know we can talk realistic here.
B-Sol, this is realistic. That was the #1 defense in college football. There's a reason his son is not on the team anymore.
J-Sol, let me ask you this. Were they the #1 defense because they were playing a bunch of juggernaut offenses, or were they playing the terrible Big Ten West where everyone was punting every game?
Where Nebraska was in
Michigan. They still had held Michigan there in the Big Ten championship game. They even won their bowl game.
Now, J-Sol.
No, they got killed in their bowl game. They got annihilated. Tennessee shut them out 50-0, dude.
That's because Cooper DeJean wasn't playing. I forgot.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Your DB wasn't playing, so you got shut out.
Best player on the team. Best player
by
in the Big
Tennessee, J-Sol. It was Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee wasn't that good. Maryland might have beat Tennessee.
They weren't that bad. Matchup. Now that is just an outrageous take right there.
So you're now drinking the SEC Kool-Aid? You think anybody just popping out of the SEC should be able to blow out anyone they play?
You know that's what he's thinking.
That is exactly the opposite of what I would be thinking. And second of all, Iowa also lost that game because their punter opted out of the game. I mean, he's the best player. He played every freaking snap for that team. Because he wasn't on the field, flipping the field.
Hold on. Did you just say that Iowa got shut out and lost their bowl game because their punter opted out of playing?
That's exactly right. He couldn't flip the field
just
for them and
just
give
hold
his
on,
defense
hold on.
a great opportunity.
I don't think you understand. You said they didn't score at all because their punter wasn't punting.
Yep. Iowa's punter set them up perfectly during the Big Ten season.
I'm still a little lost here. I will tell you, their punter was the best player on their team.
You want me to say I was happy that for Iowa that they had a quarterback on the field? No.
J-Sol, but their punter wasn't scoring.
Their
points
punter
for them.
gave him the best chance to win games.
I would agree with you in that sense, but there's also a reason he wasn't in. There's a reason he wasn't in New York for the Heisman because he's a punter.
Well, we're just forgetting the fact that the Big Ten West was terrible, J-Sol. Iowa's 11-1 record was a fake record. It was based on strength of schedule. They went 11-1. If they had a normal schedule, they're an 8-win team.
Absolutely. T-Cell's correct because when you look back at it, J-Cell, Nebraska was in the Big Ten West race and had an opportunity to win until they finished on that 3-game skid.
4-game skid.
Yeah, but the 4th game, that first loss, I believe that was the Maryland loss, didn't kill them in the Big Ten West. It was the last 3 games.
But point being, the Big Ten West was garbage. And who was the second best team in the Big Ten West? Was it Northwestern? Because, I mean, come on, Jason.
I think they actually won their bowl game.
Yeah, but I think they were playing in Yankee Stadium against like Boston College or something.
Hey, they might have been, but don't knock it until you try it.
Okay, that's like a home game for Boston College, so that's a tough spot to go on the road. Second of all,
but Jason, that's why nobody's calling Boston College.
Third of all, we were going to run through our college football playoff teams. Now we're out here talking about Iowa. Yes, we know they're garbage, but they have the best defense in college football. It's hard to not point that out.
Now, J-Cell, are we talking about Iowa because they're in your top 12 teams? Is that what I'm getting out of this?
He's got him ranked number 3.
Scoopers, the silence and the smirk on his face right now. When you see the video,
you're going to know.
You're going to know that J-Cell has the Iowa Hawkeyes, the fake old Iowa Hawkeyes who can't score more than 6 points a game in the college football
and they still
playoff.
win. And they still win.
You call yourself a Husker fan?
It comes down to wins versus losses. And second of all, I have them up as a toss-up right now. So yes, I do got them jotted in, but they could be a 12, they could be a 13 and not make it. Listen, I got 2 like that. I got 14 teams right here, right now. And I can tell you, 2 of them are going to be on the outside looking in. Now,
Jason,
just hold on.
Jason, hold on. Time out. Jason, I've got Iowa in my Big Ten championship game, and I don't got them going to the playoff.
Just hold on.
That's why you had 1 pick right last year. You're going to have 1 pick right this year, too.
You had 1 pick right, and that was a fake right.
Scoopers, here's the issue. J-Cell is part of the problem.
About it.
J-Cell is part of the problem. The reason that all these tournaments keep expanding because people are like, oh, well, what if we added a couple more? It would make it so much better. He was asked to come up with 12 teams, and he showed up with 14.
Fiso, you just said that you're not even confident in the 12 you have. So I don't know why you're trying to call me out. At least I came down to 14 that I'm confident in.
J-Cell, I haven't put him on paper.
How can you be confident in 14? 14 teams can't get in. How can you be confident that all 14 teams will get in?
Nobody is confident in your list at all there, Tisa.
I got 1 team, and I'm confident in that 1 team. How you can't be confident in 14 teams? There's no possible way you're right.
You were so confident in USC last year. We see how that turned out. Now, you want to get into our list here?
I like that you're calling it a list. We're talking about teams that have potential to get in there.
All right. Well, I'll go through my 4 teams that have potential because I can't put them in a list because Bissell is scared to put teams in a list because you'll know he'll get called out for it. You got Georgia, guaranteed they are going to the college football playoff. I can tell you that much. You got Texas, who knocked off in Alabama and made the college football playoff last year.
Sounds like a pretty SEC-heavy list.
I said I was going to start in the SEC, which I said I had 4 teams from there, Tiso. And I have Texas jotted in. They will be going back to the college football playoff. I got a, let me see, we're going to have 3 coaches here from the Nick Saban coaching tree. Is that what Bissell was calling it before? And Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss will be in the college football playoff this year. And my 4th one out of the SEC, Tissot tried to skip over. They are going to be knocking off Alabama this year. They were in a New Year's Six Bowl last year because they were that good, and they returned their quarterback. They returned a lot of starters on their team, and that is the Missouri Tigers.
Ooh. Quite a pick there, Jason.
Now, Jason, I agree that you raised some teams that do have potential here to get in. I would think out of the SEC teams, I think teams that have an opportunity to get into the top 12, I think you've got Alabama, even though you say they're not going to get there. I think it's Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and I would say Tennessee. I don't think Texas
That
is
is
going
an
to have a good
erroneous
year.
take. That is an absolutely erroneous take. We're talking about a Missouri team right here that takes on Murray State, that takes on Buffalo, that takes on Boston College.
Jason, nobody is ever talking about Missouri.
Texas A&M without a head coach. They got UMass coming into town. UMass.
You may as well start talking about South Carolina.
Auburn is atrocious. Auburn hasn't been anything for 7-8 years now. Auburn hasn't won anything since the Iron Bowl where they took back the field goal against Alabama. Then you got at Alabama. Guess what? Big whoop. It's a new Alabama, new head coach, new roster. This Alabama team is going to go 8-4 this year. And then you got Oklahoma. Oklahoma. That's what I'm still asking, because Oklahoma doesn't deserve to be in the SEC. We've seen how they've done in the Big 12, and they sleep in the big games. And guess what? When Missouri is hosting Oklahoma, that is going to be a big game when they're riding high off of the Alabama win. And then they got South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas to finish the year. I think they could have 1 to 2 losses maybe on their schedule and still make the playoff. I'm not saying they're a top 4 in hosting, getting the bye, but they're going to be in the playoff.
J-Sol, I will admit, I did not look at Missouri's schedule here. Pulling it up, listen to you run through it, and confirming that Brady Cook is back. This Missouri team could be a dark horse to be in the top 12. I will give you that.
That's all Missouri ever is a dark horse. They never come through. They never finish off anything.
But T-Sol, when you're looking at this, who is their toughest game? It's Alabama. Okay. Even if they lose to Alabama.
You say this every year about Missouri's schedule, and yet they somehow lose these questionable games. When's the last time Missouri finished in the top 12?
I believe last year.
Last year they did. They were at a New Year's
Six Bowl. If last year was such an anomaly, then they're guaranteed to not do it this year. Before last year was the last time they finished in the top 12.
Nobody listens to your picks ever. That's why USC was going to be the only undefeated team last year, and they had
Jason,
4
that's what
losses.
you're sticking
That's
with.
An
you put that
pick.
Tulane, the tidal wave, was going to be the only undefeated team in the college football playoff last year. And how did that work for Tulane?
I did not say that. I did not say they were going to be the only undefeated team. And second of all, Tulane was 2 losses away from being in the college football playoff. Second of all,
so were the rest of my teams. They were all 2 losses away from getting in.
Second of all, Beasco wants to just skim over the fact that he put Tennessee in here. Tennessee takes on Georgia and Alabama this year, along with a good Oklahoma team. And
you just
Florida.
said Oklahoma.
That's because they're taking on. That is at Missouri. That is why they're Oklahoma. Oklahoma. This is at Oklahoma.
I'll tell you this, Jason. So you said
Tennessee
4 SEC teams are getting in. You said 4 are getting in.
Tennessee lost their quarterback. Yes, 4 SEC teams will be making the college football playoff.
Guaranteed it. Bisa, how many SEC teams did you just name?
I would go out and I would say 4. 4 out of the 5 that I said.
4 is guaranteed.
Whoa, I thought we were coming in here with 12 teams and Bisol saying he's got 4, maybe 5. All of a sudden, he's got a J-Sol type of lisp over there.
I've got 5, maybe 6 SEC teams in the playoffs.
Oh, well, here goes another one. Why don't you lock them in there, T-Sol?
You forget that the viewers all vote them up to the top.
16,
you forgot about
SEC bias. List off these teams real quick.
I got Georgia.
Yep.
Duh. Ole Miss. Texas.
Yeah. Okay.
Alabama.
Nope.
Yeah. LSU.
So you got a new head coach. Now you got a team with no quarterback. Keep going.
Never stopped them before.
They had the Heisman Trophy winner last year, and they didn't even make it. All right. Who else did you say?
I think they finished on the top 12 there, Jason. If they didn't, they were like right outside it.
They lost to the team that you said.
So what did I say? Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas. And if they get 6, it's either going to be Oklahoma or it's going to be Tennessee, like Bisol said, possibly.
Gross. We just ran through Tennessee's schedule. Now we can open up Oklahoma's atrocious schedule they're coming into. It is not going to be Oklahoma. Oklahoma can't even handle Texas. They can't even handle half of the Big 12. And you think they're going to come into the SEC and run it? They got to take on, first of all, Houston. Houston is a phenomenal team that is now in the Big 12, or has been in the Big 12. They got to
I'll
go
stick
through
it with
a
5.
juggernaut.
I'll
They
stick
have
it
to
with
go
those
through
5.
a juggernaut of Tulane. They got to go through Tennessee, who you also think is going to be in the playoff. They got to go through Texas, who
I'm
you
sticking
also
with
think is
those
going to be in the
5.
playoff. They got to go through Ole Miss, who you also think is going to be in the playoff. They got to go through Alabama, who you also think is in the playoff. They got to go through LSU. I don't think Ole Miss is coming out of this season with 7 wins.
Jason, you forgot that people look at strength of
Hold-
schedule, and
hold
if
on,
Ole
hold
Miss
on.
pulls off more than half those wins, they're getting all
said-
the votes.
You said Ole Miss isn't coming out with 7 wins, or Oklahoma?
Ole Miss.
I thought you were looking up Oklahoma's schedule.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Just clarifying for
No,
all the
I
listeners
meant
who just
Oklahoma. Oklahoma. Yeah. They do got to play
I-
Ole Miss, though, during the year. And I don't think
Yes.
they're going to have 7 wins throughout the season.
I would agree with you. I think Oklahoma and Texas are going to be overwhelmed.
So
and
you're
miss
taking the
playoff.
USC approach with Oklahoma, because that's what I'm saying about USC. There's no chance they're coming out in the Big Ten, and they're not
Go
coming
look
out
at,
close.
Have you opened Oklahoma's schedule, dude? They go through Temple. I'll give you a win at versus Temple. Houston. Cam Rising's playing? I don't think so. Tulane, chalk it up, whatever. I'll give you a half a win on that one.
Wait.
That is the Tulane Green Wave.
Wait.
Whatever. So
Who's
you got 2
who's
wins.
playing at Houston?
Oklahoma's playing Houston.
And who did you say is playing? And you got no chance.
Oklahoma
Oklahoma's
will beat
playing
Houston. They
And
will
Cam
beat
Rising.
Houston.
Cam Rising is the quarterback for Utah, who's going to win the Big 12.
You're right. It is Utah, not Houston. But it is the Cougars, who I was on the train a couple years ago, and I will not forget. The Cougars are back, baby. They are back. All right, so maybe they'll have
the
7
train
wins.
that went the wrong way on the track?
7 wins. All right, guess what? I'll give them 7 wins. So what? They start 3-0. Then they got to go through Tennessee. I don't think so. Auburn, maybe. I'll give you.
You just
a
said
dog.
Tennessee sucked.
This is Oklahoma. Tennessee sucks if you're putting them against Ole Miss and Georgia. No duh, they suck. They got Texas.
I'm sticking
loss.
with
South
5.
Carolina, win. Ole Miss, loss. I don't even know this cupcake on their schedule. I got to open it up. Maine. They play the Maine Black Bears. I've never even heard of this team. I'll give you a win on that. Congrats. That's your 6th win throughout the season. And then you got to go through the juggernaut of Missouri, Alabama, LSU. I don't think so.
Missouri's not a juggernaut. Nobody sweats when they have to play Missouri.
Ohio State was in the New Year's Six Bowl last year. I believe it was the Cotton Bowl.
Didn't you chalk it up and say that Florida State lost their bowl game to Georgia because everyone transferred out and didn't want to play? I guarantee you that's what Ohio State did.
All right, you want to get B-Cell? You already gave your SEC teams.
I'm
Let's
sticking
flip
with
it
5.
over.
I'm sticking with those first 5.
I think
that's an erroneous take.
They're going to be close to 6, and it wouldn't shock me if they get that 6 team.
So,
But I'm sticking with 5, and so I'll run through it quick just so you guys don't trip me up. So you guys don't trip me up. I'm running back through it.
Conferences. That
I'm going with Georgia. I'm going with Bama. I'm going with Ole Miss. I'm going with Texas, and I'm going with LSU. That's my 5 out of the SEC. So you don't trip me up.
you got them written down there so we can go back and hold you to them?
You're Mr. writes it down in a notebook.
Okay. Here, what are your teams you got going in here, T-Cell?
Bama,
with new head coach, brand new head coach. Don't forget.
they still have a top 5 roster in all of college football.
Okay.
Ole Miss,
Okay.
That's
LSU,
top 5 roster
Okay.
without a quarterback.
Texas,
Okay.
and Georgia. And who are your 4 teams?
J-Cell, who are your 4?
He's trying to skip past. He's going to see which ones line up between us and pick those ones immediately. I know what you're doing there, B-So. I already gave mine. Let's hear yours.
J-Cell forgot his 4 picks. That's why he said it like that.
Just give me your 4 SEC teams so I can write them down while I'm here.
Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas, and Missouri.
He's going to regret that Missouri pick.
A New Year's Six bowl from last year, and I'm going to regret it, with a returning
Missouri
starting
never
quarterback.
plays in the New Year's Six. So if they've made it last year, that guarantees they're not going to make it for the next 15 years.
LSU had the Heisman last year, didn't even make a New Year's Six
LSU's
bowl.
used to doing this stuff. They're here, they're there, they're out, they're in. They do it constantly.
Make a New Year's Six bowl with the Heisman Trophy winner.
And yet their recruiting is still off the trail, man.
Yeah, it's off the trail. Guess what? Ole Miss is off the charts.
You're ripping on Auburn too. Let me tell you this. I looked at the recent recruiting. They're landing the top guys in Alabama. They're maybe a year or two away from competing again.
Well, then guess what that means? And your little take right there, they ain't in it this year. Now, Bisa, what were your teams out there? You seem to be lining up between our teams right there. I see your face.
Lining up. I'm pulling up something here.
He's got Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and South Carolina.
Picks. Mel Kiper's top 25 for next year.
The top 25. Not even.
Sorry. Mel Kiper's college football playoff prediction. Kirk Herbstreit's college football playoff prediction. And he's looking through to see who lines up together.
Who's Kentucky's football coach again, Bill? Bissell?
I believe it. Is it still Mark Stoops?
Yeah. Because they had a down year last year, but don't be shocked if they make a comeback again, too.
We're talking about football here, T-Cell. Football, not basketball.
They've been good the last couple of years. Last year, they were 7-6, and trust me, we would kill for that. So, before you rip on them too much.
That's still not good. Yeah, they made a bowl game. Big whoop-de-frickin-do.
Yeah, big whoop-de-frickin-do. You picked us to go 6-6. You said you'd be celebrating through the streets.
That is a difference. You're just saying that they're a juggernaut.
I never said Kentucky was a juggernaut.
You just did.
Okay,
the last
Jason.
couple years they've been good.
So here,
run through your four teams. What are you Googling? You're getting past. What are your four teams there, B? So you said you had four, maybe
because
5.
I told you 4, maybe 5. And then I looked up the Missouri schedule after you were talking about it, and I agree with you. I think Missouri's got a really good shot.
Pulling one off my
told you
charts. Pulling one off my charts.
So
we're going to have to get you to go through your Big 10 picks and your ACC Big 12 and every other pick before I'm going, because you're just whipping them off of my charts.
No. So I will give you 4 that are going to make it, and the 5th one I'm sitting out until I go through the other conferences to see who I think is going to get in. So I think you've got Georgia, Ole Miss, Mizzou, Alabama.
Oh, he already charted in Mizzou. He looked at my list and he's not even putting them on the outskirts.
No,
he had 4 teams before. He had 4 teams before, folks, and he just heard my pick of Mizzou making it, and he charted them in and dropped one of his own teams. And he didn't say a 4th in the list, let me mind you. He said them 3rd in the list. All right, continue.
I'm just telling you, looking at their schedule, returning a lot of their team, I think Mizzou stands a really good shot at being a top 12 team. I think their schedule is favorable, and that's part of the reason they're there. I've got Tennessee right now down towards the bottom until we go through as my potential 5th SEC team getting in. I think you guys picking Texas.
You're telling me my list didn't change your thoughts here?
Not at all.
You didn't even know Missouri existed.
I skimmed them real quick because it's Missouri.
Yep.
So let's look at Missouri's schedule from last year. Show me who on their schedule they beat that was actually a good team.
I am not pulling up Ohio State. All right. I am not pulling up.
Bowl games don't count. So pull it through for the regular season.
Bowl champions schedule from last year to prove to you that they are a better team than Tennessee.
They beat Tennessee last year. Whoop-de-doo. I think Tennessee was awful last year.
Tennessee's quarterback got hurt before.
I don't have Tennessee picked. I said
they were
right outside,
that they would be your
possibly
16.
possibly them or Oklahoma. Somebody's going to be sniffing right outside.
You guys were giving me a hard time about 10 minutes ago about having 14 teams here.
I didn't pick them. I said they're sniffing outside.
That's what I said. All right, let's get into the Big Ten. I'm going to go last since somebody seems to be cheating off my charts over here.
Cheating off your chart. Nobody is.
All right, B-So, go ahead. Go ahead first. Why don't you pull it out? How many teams do you think are going to, first of all, make it from the Big Ten? Remember, we are sitting in a Power 2 world.
I agree it's a Power 2 world. And I've gone back and forth on how many Big Ten teams are going to make it, because I think the 2 Big Ten championship game teams are going to be in. I think that's
you just
easy.
gave JSO the hardest time saying that wasn't guaranteed, not going to happen.
No.
You just ripped JSO apart for 10 minutes saying that if somebody gets blown out in the Big Ten championship, there's no chance.
I think if you drop down and you have 3 losses, once you get that 3rd loss, you're out.
No,
I don't think a
so.
3-loss team is making it. I think you have to have
unless
all
you're
losses.
Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, or Georgia.
Nope. We're talking about the Big Ten and the SEC. It doesn't matter if you have 3 losses. 4, you're for sure out.
No,
so just so you guys know
who you are.
So the rankings last year at the end of the season, 11 and 12 were the only teams with 3 losses. It was Arizona and LSU. After bowl games is where it finished.
Which would have never happened. Arizona would have never been in there if the 12 teams made the playoffs.
I'm telling you, with 12-team playoffs, I don't think you're at a 3-loss team. I think everybody is going to be at 2 losses or less.
I disagree. Now, B-So, who cares? Give us your 4 teams you're saying they're going to be from the Big Ten. 4, maybe 5, because you guys are just chalking up extra teams. Why don't you just name every team in the Big Ten for us? And he's Googling now. Mel Kiper's picks again for the Big Ten, matching it up with Kirk Herbstreit's, and unfortunately, he can't find my picks just yet. Now, Tiso, what are your picks for the Big Ten, and how many teams do you think are going to make the playoff?
I think you're probably at that 4.
For the Big Ten, I think I'm sticking with 4.
So you think there's only 2 teams that aren't going to be a part of the SEC or Big Ten?
I had 5 in the SEC, 4 in the Big Ten. That leaves 3.
Okay. Forgot.
Yeah, it's first grade math here, Jason.
I forgot you threw in a couple extra ones. It's hard to count up to 12, I know. All right, why don't you go ahead? You got 4 teams there, T-Sol. You got 4 teams.
I think I'm going to have to go with Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan.
So you have Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, and you don't even have them going to the playoff.
Because Penn State's going to spank them. They're going to spank them to sleep, and Iowa's not going to make the playoff because of that.
It is not.
I'm not saying the thing that you are. I'm not saying the thing you are, that if you make the Big Ten championship, you're guaranteed to get in. It's almost better to not play in the Big Ten championship unless you win it. Because if you lose it, you're out.
You do know that it's not an East versus West this year. It's just a list.
You do realize a lot of teams can have the same record, right there, Jason?
Okay, whatever you say there, my friend. Whatever you say, that might be the dumbest take I've ever. So that is a hot take and a half. That both teams in the Big Ten championship game won't make the college football playoff.
And when it happens, Jason, are you gonna? How about you pay my mortgage for a month when it happens?
How about you give me your house when it happens for a month? All right, Biso, what are your teams?
Yeah.
So for sure, I'm locking in 3 that are going to make it: Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State.
You copied right off my list.
Nope. And I've got Nebraska on the outside looking in.
So you have 3 Big Ten teams making the playoffs.
You said there was 4 guaranteed to make
it. The Big Ten expands to 18 teams, and they can only get 3 teams in the playoffs.
No, he said there would be 4, but all of a sudden his 4th team is looking in.
Yes, because I told you that I think teams can only have 2 losses. And the 4th team, when I'm going through the Big Ten would be a Nebraska team who's probably going to have ties with other people with 3 losses. So unfortunately, they would be on the outside looking in.
So you got 3 Big Ten teams. So the Big Ten expands to 18, and they miss out. They only make 3. They make less with more, is what you're saying.
Yes.
That is what he's saying. It's almost like how everyone sees your picks going for the year. You're going to have less in this college football playoff picked right than you did last year.
I don't think so, Jay. So we have a lot of the same picks here.
Settle down there, T-Cell. Settle down.
Who are your Big Ten teams here, Jaso? And how many you got?
Well, T-Cell, I have 4 teams that are going to be in the college football playoff from the Big Ten, and both are your Big Ten champions I have in the college football playoff. We're talking Penn State and we're talking Iowa, and they aren't going in this order. I also have Ohio State and Oregon, the 2 front runners that are in my Big Ten championship game.
So you said Penn State, Iowa, Ohio State, and Oregon?
And Oregon.
He's
that
officially
is correct
lost
there,
his
B-Cell.
marbles.
You have locked in an Iowa
What if I
team.
lost my... Yes, go look at their schedule there, B-Cell. Have you even looked at it? You said they had to have 2 losses to get in the playoff.
You gave me a hard time,
one.
Jay Saul, when I picked them in the Big Ten championship because of their schedule.
I gave you a hard time for putting them in your Big Ten championship game and saying they wouldn't make the playoff.
Because why would they when they get annihilated? Everyone doing the voting to put them in the playoff when they lose by 40 points.
Penn State.
Why would you throw them in?
Penn State. You're acting like Penn State's a juggernaut. Penn State lost to Iowa last year.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did. You may want to Google that one, T-Cell, because that was in Iowa City, Iowa.
Iowa City,
right.
Iowa.
Now that you have 8 of my teams there, B, so which conference do you guys want to flip it over to next? You want to talk about the ACC or the Big 12?
They beat Iowa 31-0, you moron.
All right, what about the year before? Keep it flipping.
31-0 wasn't even close.
Yeah, it was a cold game. Flu game.
J-So's on his list scratching Iowa.
Let's take a
now.
look here. Big 12. I think they get in with 2 teams this year.
I disagree with
Big
you there,
12?
B-Sol. I think they are going to have 1 team in the playoff.
I think the Big 12 is going to have Utah, and I think Oklahoma State is going to do enough to eke in at the end of the top 12.
Who did you say there, B-Sol? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Utah
He had
and
Oklahoma State and Utah, 2 terrible teams.
Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State.
I'm putting Iowa in before Oklahoma State gets in. Sorry to tell you there, B-Sol.
Oklahoma State is returning a quarterback who threw for 4,000 yards last year in a conference that arguably didn't get any better.
Let me tell you, B-Sol, they are only going to be getting 1 team in the playoff, and you had them picked. That is Utah with Cam Rising. Utah with Cam Rising. Did I get it right there, B-Sol?
You did get it right, yes.
My Big 12 pick is 0. Big 12 is not getting any teams in the playoffs this year.
Wow. I'm putting that down as a hot take there, T-Cell.
How's that a hot take? It's the truth. The Big 12 is not part of the upper conferences. They got a bunch of lower tier teams playing for them. You shouldn't get in the playoffs.
A hot take and a half. A hot take and a half. Let me tell you that. Let's flip it over there, T-Cell.
Why should they get the same opportunity as everybody else with all these weak teams in their conference? They shouldn't.
They aren't getting the same
opportunity. They have all the rejects.
You said
they have all the
SEC
rejects.
was going to get 5 or 6 teams in the playoff. You're saying the Big Ten's going to get 4. You can't say they're going to get 1? You don't even think 1?
No. Why should they get in the playoff just for being in a conference? That's not the way it works.
Okay, we'll flip it over to T-Cells. Who do you have left in your playoff prediction there, T-Cell? Because if I am correct, you had 9 teams. He had 9 teams picked. Yes.
How many teams do you guys have left? 3?
I had 4, but we're going through the Big 12.
Got
I had 4. Utah, which makes it 3.
Yes. So we all have
3
left. 3 teams remaining.
So we're all in the same place? And you guys are ripping apart me. You're not saying that the SEC could steal the Big 12 spot? They stole Oklahoma and Texas. That's their spot.
It is mathematically improbable that they would get 5 or 6 teams based on your prediction that they would have to have 2 losses or less.
Is it though? Because you forget that, like in the preseason rankings in the top 10, 5 of them are SEC.
It is mathematically improbable that it could even happen. That
when number 1 loses to number 4, you don't drop very far.
So you already came out and said that they would have to have 2 losses or less. It is mathematically improbable that all of those teams would have 2 losses or less.
said that. When did I agree to that?
So
I think if the SEC has 4 losses, they're putting them in over a 2-loss Big 12.
Hot take. Write it down. Write it down there, B. So 4-loss SEC team makes it. So a 4-loss SEC team makes it over a 2-loss Big 10 champ.
I'm saying they should. Because the 4-loss SEC team against 2-loss Big 12 team would be favored in a head-to-head matchup. Tell me I'm not wrong. Tell me I'm not right.
You said they would, not should.
They would be favored, wouldn't they? Would they be favored? If they matched up a 2-loss Big 12 versus a 4-loss SEC, SEC would be favored. Tell me I'm wrong.
Who did they lose to?
Doesn't matter. I don't think it matters.
I think it depends who they lost to as well.
I don't think so. No.
Yep, this is the SEC bias coming out of T-Cell. We knew it would happen. Why did you have all 12 picked from the SEC there, T-Cell?
Why do you think it's coming from me? I'm not the one who creates the AP and college polls every week.
You're the one that just came up with this hot take that a 4-loss team is getting in over a 2-loss Big 12 champ.
I'm calling it the way I see it. That's the way they do the rankings. So okay, I'm going to get them right.
SEC biased over here. Let's flip it over. Right. You got any team from the ACC?
My final 3 teams in the playoffs.
ACC teams.
Yes, I have ACC.
Who's that, T-Cell?
Well, first we'll start it off with independents because Notre Dame is going to get in. So there's number 10 for you.
I agree. I have Notre Dame making it as well.
I do have Notre Dame chalked in there as well.
So we all got 2 teams from the ACC, and you guys are giving me a hard time.
I actually only have 1 team from the ACC.
I only have 1 team from the ACC as well there, T-Cell.
You guys are ridiculous. You guys are ridiculous with this. The ACC is a better conference than the Big 12.
I never said that I had 2 teams from the Big 12. I have 1 from the Big 12 and 1 from the ACC.
But see, take it ACC teams and which one's going to come out and which one won't is like pulling a rabbit out of a hat because you look at this, 6 teams could probably take the ACC this year. And what I'm saying is 2 of them will
6
get in.
And 1 of them ain't Clemson.
Clemson is definitely one of them that could win it.
I disagree.
I'm putting in. Okay, fine. Just because you guys did that, I'm putting in Clemson. Clemson's one of my playoff teams.
Okay.
And my other playoff team, I'll have to roll with North Carolina.
North Carolina?
North Carolina's a solid football team.
Not if they got 2 losses, they ain't. Bring it another SEC.
Jeez Louise.
Who do you got there out of the ACC there, B-Sol?
My ACC team, you both are going to judge. I think it's a dark horse. I think they win the ACC with a new transfer quarterback and a very favorable schedule.
Wow. Okay.
Does J-Cell know where it's going?
I like their schedule. Yes. And Syracuse is a dark horse I can agree with to come out of the ACC. But I did not
just burn your list now.
Now, before you guys both decide to flip out here about Syracuse winning the ACC, has anybody looked at their schedule this year? You are bringing in Kyle McCord.
It doesn't matter what their schedule is.
It does matter. Hold on a second. Let me pull this up here for you. I should have had it up because I knew you were going to freak out about it. Just this Syracuse schedule.
I have looked through their schedule, and I do like where your mind is at, and they did get a good quarterback. However, I don't think that a great, was a 5-star quarterback in Kyle McCord. I don't think he brings enough to the table to help Syracuse get over the hump. I think they're going to drop some of these games because I think their defense is atrocious.
So let's go through this real quick. Ohio at home, win. Georgia Tech at home, win.
I don't know.
Stanford at home, win.
For Syracuse, these are all toss-ups.
Holy Cross at home, win.
That's still a coin flip for Syracuse.
Your first road game is on the road at UNLV, and it's a late
Which
game.
is a
that is a hard game. I'll give you that.
Premier bowl game team in UNLV, and I think Holy Cross and Ohio are the only ones you can chalk up as a straight up dub.
But you go from UNLV, then you're on the road to NC State and Pitt.
Tough.
But I agree, those are tough. But I think at that point you're going to be battle tested. By that point, I think if Syracuse stays healthy, battle tested
for Bayou
by that Georgia Tech and that Stanford team, and I think UNLV as well. I think NC State is going to chalk up to be about as good as Georgia Tech this year. I think Pittsburgh is going to be terrible this year. That's a win. Virginia Tech, terrible. Boston College, one of the worst teams in college football the last couple of years. Then you've got on the road.
That didn't stop them from losing to Boston College last year.
They didn't have a quarterback, T.
They still don't have a quarterback.
Different team. Oh, that hits deep considering you were on the Kyle McCord train before he decided he wasn't coming.
That's because it was based off of our quarterback situation last year.
Hold on. So you're telling me they still don't have a quarterback?
You're telling me you would rather have Kyle McCord than Dylan Raiola?
Absolutely
Is that what
not. No. What I'm telling you. Good. So let me tell you this. So you're saying Syracuse doesn't have a quarterback, but Kyle McCord is the transfer quarterback you wanted before we landed Raiola.
I would have took anybody, literally anybody, over the quarterback situation we had last year.
The point.
He would have taken a blind mouse.
That's right. I would have took Chazzy's blind mouse to quarterback because he's leading Michigan to championships.
I think Syracuse is the team to beat in the ACC.
False. False. I'll tell you who my ACC prediction to win the ACC is, and that is
no.
Florida
he's going to pick Florida State.
Florida State because they got that chip on their shoulder, and they are coming to play this year. Mike Norvell's team will have them steamrolling teams, and they will be in the college football playoff. Will they be a top 10 team? They would have to be undefeated to be a top 10 team. I could see them at 11 or 12. And so guess what? How many picks does that put you guys at? How many of you?
I'm maxed out.
T's done.
Maxed out when we went through the SEC.
I've got one remaining.
Well, hold on a second. Before, we're not just going to let him just say the Florida. I mean, dude, Florida State's probably going to be scary bad this year. Last year was their season. It's not this year. They're done. They're going to be an 8-4 team at best. And here's what I'm telling you.
Have you looked at their schedule?
You ran through and said that Syracuse had a favorable schedule. Did you even look at North Carolina's schedule? Did you? They start the season.
They got to go
Minnesota.
Into Tallahassee.
That's a win. That's a win. Then they got Charlotte. Win. NC Central. Win. James Madison. Win. They're 4-0 going into conference.
James Madison was scary good
D1 AA.
That's a win.
D1 AA.
That's a win.
First team to go from
North Carolina
AA
is a tough football
in the top
team.
25.
North Carolina is a tough football team.
James Madison was in the top 25 at the end of the year last year.
Yes, they
Nobody
were.
cares about that. They're just putting them in there for pity points. We all know that. Then they go on the road to Duke. That's a win. Then they got Pittsburgh coming home. As Beasel said, Pittsburgh's one of the worst teams in college football. That's a win. Then they got Georgia Tech, and that's a win. And guess what? After that Georgia Tech game, they're battle-tested. They're battle-tested for the rest of the season, as Beasel tried to put on Syracuse. Then they got Virginia. That's a win. Then they got Florida State. Guess what? They could lose that Florida State game. It doesn't matter because they're not going to lose another game. They got Wake Forest. Win. Boston College. Win. NC State to end the season at home.
Now, I am glad that Beasel brought up playing Georgia Tech makes you battle-tested because that's who Florida State opens the year with is Georgia Tech. You're darn right. They are battle-tested from week one. And
they're battle-tested with the loss.
Florida State will be running the table. They do play in Dublin, Ireland, like Nebraska did a few years ago.
That's a loss. Yeah. Now Florida State is going to lose. Bet now, Scoopers, that Florida State loses week one.
Now, for both of you guys to understand here, that I find it humorous that he's picking Florida State because here is the situation. Do you understand that Jordan Travis is no longer there?
Yes, and they still should have been in the playoff, and they would have been
Do
without
do
him
you
last year.
know?
They still did they go or did they not go undefeated with Jordan Travis missing 3 or 4 games at the end of the season?
No, hold
Regular
on.
season,
Hold on.
regular season, and they won the
Do-
ACC championship without Jordan Travis.
Okay, you can get off the Jordan Travis train for a second.
I
because
wasn't
I'm
even
trying
on
to
him.
make a
You
point.
brought him
Yeah.
up. I said they won without him.
What I'm trying to tell you is their quarterback this year is a guy who's familiar with the ACC, a guy who started this fire Dabo train for JSUL, a little guy called DJ Owungawale.
Yes,
And
Ugalugaway was not ready when he came into the stage and played there. However, do you want to go back and look at Oregon State's year last year? Because they had a pretty darn good year.
Congratulations. Oregon State
Bezo,
was
you're
good.
clapping for Kyle McCord. We're talking about a Syracuse team that didn't even win a game last year. Sorry, they won 6 games and got absolutely demolished in the bowl game.
They won 6 games. I'm telling you right now, Oregon State's schedule compares to Kansas's schedule. It's comparing apples to oranges here when you bring them to Florida State. The competition's harder. He's not going to succeed.
Bezo, did you pick your 12 teams already?
I've got one left, and it's between 2 teams.
Well, let's hear them.
Let's hear your team. You've
No,
got one
because
left.
You guys
Yes,
suck at
and
picking.
it's down to the I have my team picked already.
Okay. Who is it?
Well, I did like that you bring up Oregon State because we're going out to the Pac-12, baby. We are going out to the Pac-12, but it will not be Oregon State. That leaves it down to one team, and that is Washington State. The hardest game they're going to be playing all year is at the end of the year. They have to go at Oregon State, second to last game of the year. That is the hardest game. You want to pull up their schedule, and
They could go undefeated. They're not getting in the playoff.
That is false there, T. So they are playing.
No, it's not. They have one of the worst schedules in college football.
Portland State, Texas Tech, Washington. Washington doesn't even have the same caliber football team that they did last year.
They're going to lose to Washington.
They don't have an offense. They don't have a coordinator. They don't have a coach. They don't have a GM, whatever you want to call them, an athletic director. Then they go to San Jose State. Then they go to Boise State. Then they go to Fresno State. Then they play Hawaii. Then they play at San Diego State. Then Utah State. Then New Mexico State. The hardest game they play is at the end of the year. Oregon State.
You just named 6 losses. You just named 6 losses.
Who will be battle tested because they play Oregon during the year. Now, if Oregon State knocks off Oregon at home and runs the table, I think Oregon State will be in the playoff. However, I have Washington State being in the playoff because they play nobody except Oregon State at the end of the year, who will already have 1 loss playing Oregon, and then they finish up with Wyoming. An undefeated.
They're both going to end with more than 1 loss.
An undefeated Big 12 or Pac-12 champ makes it to the playoff.
No,
I rest my case.
Yeah, I agree with T-Cell. There's no way. And J-Cell,
There's no way. We just ran through the Power 5 and you still got 2 teams.
I got 1 team left.
Okay, name it.
I've got 2 teams that I told you are sitting on the outside.
That's what I said. You're sitting on the outside with 2 teams
we go.
that aren't even in a
Here
conference.
we go.
So here are some teams.
Boise State.
Every year,
Boise State.
Diesel has to name some team out of left field that doesn't have a chance in hell, and they never get there.
Boise State's one of them.
How dare you forget about Cincinnati?
He's going to say, the Cincinnati Bearcats.
That Bearcat
Don't ever
bandwagon.
disrespect the Bearcat bandwagon.
Now, guys, when we look at it, I've given you a couple teams already that I think are on the outside looking in. And I think if a couple games go their way, I think they could be in. I think Texas is one of them. I think Nebraska. And I would say Louisville. I think those are 3 teams that are sitting right there that if they get a couple games to go their way, I think they end up in. Yes. I think they end up in. I think they end up in the college football playoffs. However, the team that ekes in at number 12 is going to be an undefeated team. A team returning most of their starters from last year. A team that finished ranked 25th at 13-1. And J-Cell, that's correct. It is Liberty.
That is a horrendous pick.
That is an horrendous. Listen,
you're just pissing away your last pick. You obviously don't want to get 12 right.
So you put like 10 teams in the SEC. We know that's not going to happen. The Pac-12 is still appreciated and they still have respect on their name for what they did last year.
If they were respected, they would have got an invite to a conference. Even the Mountain West said hell no to those guys. Nobody wants those guys.
They are in a conference.
Even if they went undefeated, none of the voters are Pac-12 alum because all their other teams left. So now they're SEC, Big Ten, whatever. They're not voting those guys in, even if they go undefeated. They don't like them.
So an undefeated Pac-12 team doesn't get in over a 5-loss SEC team.
Jason, you forgot that this is up to voters, and voters are biased.
Okay, say it. Say it.
The Pac-12 is not getting into the playoff.
The Pac-12 no matter what, not getting into the playoff. Absolutely not.
No matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what. No matter what. No matter what crazy scenario you drop in your head, the Pac-12 is still not going into the playoff.
And you think Liberty is going to the playoff?
No, I don't. No.
I think you've got a group
Liberty
of 5
was 13-1. Wait, Liberty was 13-1 and they finished at 25.
It's because of their loss last
That's
year.
the best they could do.
No.
Liberty would have to be 20-0 to make it.
You've got, when you look at this Liberty team, Jason, I think
they were
going to run
13-1. They had a 4-loss Iowa team above them. They had a 3-loss SMU team. They had a 4-loss Louisville above them.
There's at least 3 guys on this Libertyville team that possibly could be backups at Ohio State there, Jay. So you forget about that.
That's not even their name.
Liberty had climbed up into the top 15, I believe, last year before their loss. That if they
were in the top 15, they still probably would have made it.
That is what you're basing this pick off of? That is horrible.
I beg to differ. They finished the regular season undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're gonna scratch Liberty and we're gonna throw Texas in.
Now you're gonna give him a hard time there, Jason? That he picked
more
SEC teams?
Now, I do want to say that you're giving me a hard time on this pick of Washington State, who has to play Oregon State. Oregon State was ranked 21. 21. Now, I said Oregon State might be in there if they are to knock off Oregon at home. And one of the toughest places to play in all of college football is at Oregon State in Beaver Stadium.
And Jason, didn't you say that Oregon's going a guaranteed undefeated and winning the Big Ten?
I did not say that. I did not say they were going to guaranteed undefeated.
Somebody here did.
I said they were going to be win the Big Ten. I did not say a guaranteed undefeated.
J-Sol, for the record, you have Ohio State winning the Big Ten championship game.
Exactly, so they couldn't be undefeated there, B-Sol. Thanks for backing me up.
T-Sol, that would be me who said Oregon's going undefeated. I'll own it. I'll stick my name on it. Just like I'm telling you, for the record, just to clear it up, I did pull Liberty out of my top 12 and switch them with Texas.
Okay. Smart move because you didn't want to make that mistake.
So that puts me up to...
We will be locking in our top 12 here before the season starts. We have a list of teams in there right now, but we will be locking them in order before the season starts. In order.
So you're going to be 0 for 12 then.
You're one to talk there. You're going to go SEC 1 through 8.
That is not true. And Scoopers, don't forget that we just created a new promotional item, and that is a Callaway Warbird golf ball. And it's got the Sully Scoop red N on one side, and on the other side, it says the Sully Scoop hashtag Go Big Red or GBR.
I was going to say, it doesn't say Go Big Red there, genius. It says
But
hashtag GBR.
But log on to our website. Reach out to us on Twitter if you're interested. We're selling them. We got plenty.
And thanks for joining us for another episode of the Sully Scoop, where we went through our 12, sort of 14 teams that could be in the playoff come the 2024 college football season. But you're here with J-Saw.
B-So.
And T-Cell.
And don't forget to follow and like, and you can catch all the Scoopers merch at www.thesullyscoop.com or look at us up on Twitter/X at Sully_Scoop.
Go Big Red.